The Crusader states continued existing despite the constant Muslim attacks. In Jerusalem, Godfrey was succeeded by his brother Baldwin and then his descendants. But over in the county of Edessa struck chaos. Being really small and right on Seljuk land, they faced constant attacks from them. Eventually, Edessa fell to the Muslims, and the Pope, now Eugene III, called out over Europe. But this time, it wasn't just random men with nothing else to do. It was real kings who attended the crusade, including Louis VII of France and Conrad III, king of the Germans. They both separately made their way to Anatolia. Well, actually, the French didn't want to go through the Roman Empire, or I guess you could say the Greeks at this point, but nevertheless they followed Conrad. Conrad was allowed through Hungary, but when they finally reached Constantinople, Emperor Manuel I had the feeling that Conrad would attack him, and then they fought each other in the Battle of Constantinople. Manuel also knew the French were going to come in as well, and he didn't like the idea that loads of foreigners were about to march right through his capital. Conrad decided it would be best not to wait for the French, and instead went straight for the Seljuk capital. He was destroyed by Masoud I at Dorylaeum, because the Turks are doing a tactic where they run away, then come back and smash the army. Conrad's army fled back to Constantinople, harassed daily by the Turks. Surprisingly, Manuel I agrees to a peace with the Seljuk to focus on the Crusaders who seemed to be ruining his land. The French have reached Constantinople, and their relations with the Romans were better, seeing as Louis VII enjoyed lavishness in the city. The Romans had heard exciting talks of Conrad taking the Seljuk capital, which was incorrect anyways, but Manuel refused to supply any soldiers to the French. Manuel made sure any of the land the French conquered would go to the Romans. The French found the battered remains of Conrad's army and together arrived at Ephesus. Hey Louis, how much did you pillage? Guess I ain't gonna help you against the Turks. Okay, you come back to Constantinople with me. And the Turks did attack on Christmas Eve 1147, and the French won the battle. They marched on, still being harassed by the Turks who burned their land. Louis decided he was just gonna go on boat, reaching Antioch on the 19th of March and greeting his wife's uncle Raymond. Hi Louis, are we gonna take Aleppo from the Muslims? Nah dude, let's just go to Jerusalem. Eleanor enjoyed seeing her uncle, but Raymond said that if Louis didn't comply with Raymond's plans, Eleanor would have to divorce Louis. There were rumours of an affair between Eleanor and Raymond, souring the relationship with Louis. Louis quickly left for Tripoli, and over in Damascus, the Muslims began the heavy preparation to defend the city. In Jerusalem, the Crusaders were welcomed in, and the Council of Palmyra concluded the Crusaders were going to attack Damascus from the west because they had food supplies. They then moved to the less defended east of the city. However, the governor of Syria for the Seljuks, Nur ad-Din, arrived, and the Crusaders decided they had to retreat. All the way back to Jerusalem, they were harassed by the Turks. Each of the Christian groups involved, the French, the Germans, the Romans, and the nobles of Jerusalem, felt betrayed by the others. An attack on Ascalon was planned, but never done. Conrad returned to Constantinople and Louis remained in Jerusalem. The crusade had also caused a downfall in the relationship with Louis and Eleanor, who both separately boarded ships to return to France. In the Holy Land, Baldwin III of Jerusalem, after the crusade ended, took Ascalon, bringing the Fatimids into the conflict. He pushed deep into Egyptian territory, briefly occupying Cairo, but after the disaster of the Second Crusade, received few soldiers from Europe. One of Nur ad-Din's generals, Saladin, became Sultan of Egypt, uniting with Syria and completely surrounding the Crusaders. In 1187, Jerusalem finally fell to Saladin.